one of the things that is unique about us is our target member is the owner of a business, an all-star. It's not a coach. It's not an athlete. The Association of International All-Star was founded on the idea of creating something that's large and inclusive that focuses on the other 90%. It's not an international event to where you're going to spend money to go to another country and only compete once. We've got up to 5 rounds, and the first 2 rounds are guaranteed. So everyone gets to perform twice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we are sitting down with my good friend, Jibreel. What most of you may not know is that we came up in the cheer industry at the same time. We both kind of came from the Pacific Northwest, actually cheered. I believe we were on a team together for 1 year.
Yep.
So we actually cheered on the mat together. And then he went on to be way more successful than me, way faster. And now he's got some really cool things going on. But for the people who don't know you, who haven't been to some of your events, would you give people a little bit of background of kind of who you are in cheerleading and then where you're at now?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the introduction, Dan. The story's pretty much spot on. My name is Jibreel Rayam. I am an American, and I say that because there's a point to bring it in later, but from the United States, in the Pacific Northwest, as Dan said. Currently live in Arizona. My background is robust, 20 plus years. Started out as an athlete, into the professional space for the NFL, the NBA, and opened a gym kind of all at the same time. Still one of the longest gym owners in the Pacific Northwest, up in the state of Washington, although I don't live there full time. But my career really took off as a choreographer and educator in camps. And as I branched out into the international scene with Vancouver All-Stars, I was a program director there for quite some time in the infancy of the Worlds program. And around that time in the early 2000s, I started running events, and my friends and my twin brother and I, we launched a brand that later then expanded across the world into 3 different countries, all things cheer, and expanded that and sold that. And throughout that, was one of the original event producers for the World Cheerleading Championships or the Cheerleading Worlds. For some time, I was the director of the IASF, and now here I am doing something else. I'm also a father of 2.
All right. So you've done a few things in cheer, just a few. The company that you started was the first event company. Was that ATC?
Yeah, it was ATC.
Do you still have some sort of an arm with ATC on the Canadian and Australian side? Do you guys still do that, or are you totally out of that?
No, great question. So we still own All Things Cheer Canada, which is pretty quiet. It's in the educational space. We use it when we need to. But we also still own All Things Cheer Dance Australia, which is quite active. Runs some events in our primary location is Western Australia. And we got a World's Bid event over there. And yeah, that's ATC.
Okay. And so you had the opportunity to direct the IASF. And I think one of the more interesting things about your story that I've always actually wondered about, being a company that occasionally gets asked to do things, in Canada and stuff like that. And navigating helping other countries is so complicated, not from the perspective of cheerleading, but from the perspective of hey, how do you run a company in another country when you're an American? Because it's not always easy. But we don't need to get into that because that's not what this is about. But you've been kind of involved internationally for a while. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, you've started something new that has a direct international impact.
Yep. And I just want to touch on what you said, because I think it's important for people to know sort of the lineage or sort of our why and how we did it and how we do it. Yes, been very successful internationally. The international space and opportunities there is what really skyrocketed my career. And just to keep it short, one of our core values and principles is we've never started a business abroad that has not had a national partner, a citizen of that country, in a place where we want to assure that we've always given back to that space, right? So that's been our success model, Dan. Working with people from a grassroots point, having partners that are domestic to that country. But yeah, moving into the future, the AIA, so the Association of International All-Star, that is the newest, and I would say newest and coolest and biggest thing that we're on to and we're excited about right now. So yeah, we want to shift into that.
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, I think that's super cool how you've found people to partner with in those other countries. And we do it ourselves with Next Gen. We have Rihanna in Canada, and she, helps us run kind of that side of things. So I get that, and super smart to find those partners. And I think that also kind of aligns. You mentioned your mission. I think some of that does align with what you're doing with the AIA, because you are creating relationships and partnerships across countries, right? And for the prospect of growing cheerleading. But I actually don't know very much about the AIA. I didn't get to attend because I missed the time, which has been a trend for me and you apparently. For those listening, I messaged him yesterday and was like, "Hey, are you getting on the call?" And he's like, it's supposed to be on the 15th and today's the 14th, Dan. And I was like, you know what? You're right. But I just came back from D2 Summit and the days blend together.
Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. Very absurdly excited. Could not be more happy. But yeah, so AIA, I watched the video, learned a little bit, but tell us about what the AIA is and what it is you guys are doing.
Cool, man. So thanks for that. The Association of International All-Star was founded on the idea of creating something that's large and inclusive that focuses on the other 90%. And why that is important is because we have all invested in the top tier, the 10%, and we've all been focused on these successful end of season events and chasing this dream. And one of the things about my career, as you know, is the international side of the sport or the industry. And too often do we not acknowledge how much the international consumer and members of cheerleading stakeholders have actually helped get us where we are. They have a voice, they have a need, they have an interest, and they have a power and a position. So I was challenged when I was in my former seat to do something about it. And I was faced with the reality that I really couldn't do a whole lot within the existing framework of the organization that I was in. So after a lot of thinking, self-reflection, listening, and lack of sleep, I continued on with the mission that I tried to start from within. I genuinely tried to take the organization in a path that I felt was more inclusive and transparent, in a position to really broadcast and reach out further. But it just wasn't there. We weren't aligned in that position. So I stuck to my gut, stuck to my heart, and I found some like-minded individuals that are willing to invest into a greater cause and the greater good, if you will. So it's a for-profit entity, first and foremost, and there's no hiding about that. And one of our key things is transparency. We are for-profit, and we want to be the largest international membership organization in the industry. We are for All-Star by All-Star, and this is all about All-Star. One of the things that is unique about us is our target member is the owner of a business in All-Star. It's not a coach. It's not an athlete. And we're unique in that out of respect of our strategic approach on not trying to step on toes of other organizations that exist in membership for athletes and coaches, specifically the USASF and all the 100 plus federations around the world. That's their purview. For us, we decided that if we can build something, maybe everyone will start to come, and maybe we can build something that gives regardless of which size you are or how popular you are or where you're from, gives you the opportunity to participate in something that might be able to help shift the future of this. We're all invested. So, inclusivity is a huge part of our platform, to welcome and provide opportunity for everyone to have some sort of influence and a seat at a much bigger table. It's democratic, it's open. It's open for feedback and opinions and perspectives and positions from the region of which you represent, not just the United States, the greater Portland region, or the Pacific Northwest, or a Canadian that's in the far, far east, or someone that's in Latin America that's never had a voice but has a lot to contribute. So, we like to focus on the concept of it being a network, and realizing that everyone has something to give. We're not a governing body, with zero interest in being a federation. And I think that's important to know too, because, the fear-mongers of the world might say, oh, it's a federation. No, it's not. We have no desire to try and control the sport. But if we can put commercial minds in the space where we can be free to talk about commercial aspects and build on those things, why not? I was privy to see the board and All Stars Future's not on it. So it's important that we are putting forth the effort to make sure that we're protected, regardless of your country.
So where is the future of the AIA taking us? Like you're saying, we can craft that future and we can build that. So I imagine that you guys at least have some ideas of where that might be headed. One of the things that people are always asking is, how is this different?
Yeah.
And I love that you're transparent. I love that you own that, it's a for-profit entity from the beginning. It's not a for-profit, pretending to be a nonprofit or anything like that. Like, I love just and I'm not trying to cast stones at anyone. I'm just saying that does happen in all over the world. So, setting it up, being honest from the forefront, but how are we, I guess, what do you guys see this becoming? What is the ultimate goal here?
The ultimate goal is, there's two arms to this tree. Let's just say it's the tree of life of our future. It's the largest organization that we can create that brings like-minded people together that want to talk about, where's All-Star going? What's it look like in your region versus my region versus your region versus your region? How do we protect it? How do we safeguard it? What do you do that's well? What do I do that's well? What are the common trends? All those things, and put it all in a pot and start to shape something that works, or some standards and guidelines and things that can be implemented to help us all align within our own space as owners. The non-for-profit arm of this, because there is one, that's the association side. That is where gym owners and event producers and anyone, a choreographer, a music producer, a uniform, a vendor, right, can sit in a space and collectively work together on things. And what's unique about it is when you look at like sports organizations like the NHL, most of these organizations have a for-profit foundation, a not-for-profit foundation, along with the for-profit organization. For the AIA, our association is where the gym owners live, and we live together on committees and boards, and do things that give back. And by give back, I mean actually contribute and work together and help. The for-profit side of it is, what's really our teeth, is our global tournament, which is the round robin style traditional tournament, unique and new to the sport or the industry. I'll call All-Star the industry, and a true tournament like the Little League World Series or NCAA March Madness. And from that tournament, we have a profit sharing model. That profit sharing model is based off the event producers that support it, or back to the event producers that support it, as well as the gym owners that participate. And some of the proceeds from that tournament are then shared over and given to the non-for-profit. And that funding, if you will, is then allocated by the non-for-profit and the people within it on how to give back, how to create more, how to better All-Star, whether that's making the organization better, whether that's creating tools and resources that can make everyone more standardized, or maybe that's giving money to, less fortunate regions of the world that want All-Star or have All-Star, or athletes around the world that need scholarships. So where we are now is we have the concept, we have our tournament, we have that set in Montreal, July 16th to the 20th in 2026, and now we're trying to finalize what that tournament looks like and also reach across the aisle and build the relationships, get gym owners on board with the concept of it, and start to think broader on how to work together and really get the ship moving.
So as a Cheer gym owner, what's my motivation for joining the association? Like why would I want to do that?
Because first of all, it's neutral and it's new. It's a place where there's a fresh start, Dan, and it's a place where I like to use the analogy, the house is clean. Your problems that may be following you or you have with someone else, they don't come into the new house. You take your shoes off at the door, and we are trying to create something that might benefit you. You might build a relationship from it that enhances your business. You might make a connection in another country that maybe you expand, or maybe you have an exchange program, or you learn something from someone else. There's very similar attributes to what you guys have created in Next Gen and what's been created over at the Modus, but those are all very domestic. This is something that's trying to open the pool for the world to sit around. So that's the association side. As far as the benefits for the tournament, well, now we're talking about incremental revenue streams. We're talking about opportunities to expand your seasons. We're talking about pathways for true international competition that's different from the norm of what you're used to, and providing your customer with a new experience and maybe even a new tier in your club or your gym. And what I mean by that is let's just refer to gymnastics, even though it's the bad word, right? But we know that gymnastics businesses, they're long-standing, they're pretty robust, those that are very good, and they have significant tiers in them. And one of those tiers is that elite level athlete that is aspiring to be a college level athlete or an Olympian. Now, we can't make promises to be an Olympian in cheerleading, but when you talk about something that's 18 months apart rather than 9 or 10, you can now craft teams that are designated specifically for this. And I didn't make it up. Honestly, the international stakeholder has been doing this for a long time. If you're from Australia and you want to go to Worlds, you're creating that team in a different fashion. It's a touring team. Or if you're from Mexico or Ecuador, you're building your teams a certain kind of way based on visas, based on money, and based on the ability to train additional hours with additional coaches in a different format. So we see that there's benefits across both sides of the table if people are willing to open their minds and consider the conversation or the bigger, broader thinking.
Okay. So I get the competition side. I think that's super interesting. I didn't even know anything about any sort of profit sharing model. I must have missed that. But which is surprising that I did, but definitely an interesting aspect there. With the association, is the association just a community of collaboration? You were saying kind of, seats at the table. Are they a voting entity that helps decide the next location of the for-profit event? Are they weighing in on rules and what skills are allowed? Like what does that actually look like?
Great question. Yes. So Yeah, that's one of the unique parts about the association is our members do get to participate in the shaping of the future of the tournament. There are voting opportunities and voting rights to members within the organization, as well as the ability to weigh in on what do our rules look like, what does the scoring look like, and anything that you can imagine in the house and the lane that we're in. That's a part of the inclusivity aspect with it, as well as one of the things that we feel bring value to potential members and or customers, having the opportunity to have a voice in what they're participating in, what that experience is like, not just for you, but for your athletes and your families.
So in terms of how the tournament is held, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So let's say we host the first tournament. We obviously going to learn a lot from it, both the consumer, the experience, and the members. We have an annual meeting every 12 months before the tournament. So the tournament's every 18 months, and we have an annual meeting that's every 12 months in that location, live or virtual. The purpose of that is for people to sit down and build and discuss and review, and we allow the opportunity for feedback, and for stakeholders and members to say, we love this, we didn't like this. Well, what about this? And what about that? Or I motion to put on the floor that we include X, Y, and Z instead of doing this. Our mind and our model is completely open in the sense that we want to shape and craft something together as it continues to grow.
When we talk about the association and we talk about people having a seat at the table, are we going to have limitations on representation from each country? Because I just being devil's advocate could see the States, if all the gyms in the States just jump in and join the association, it's now way top heavy with teams and gyms from the States. When you get a smaller country, like even though Cheer in Australia is awesome, they don't have as many gyms because it's not as big of a continent. So how does that work out?
Yeah. Well, we're really good friends. So I'll let you know the Australian continent's as big as our continent if you take out Maine, Florida, and Alaska. Just so you know.
Less people then?
There you go. Less people. Yeah, they got that big outback in the middle. So yeah, no, just that's a great question. And I'll be honest, Dan, I think it's really important for people to know. I don't have all the answers right now. One of the things that we focused on and prioritized was getting the for-profit entity going and getting the tournament off the ground, and sort of as if you build it, they will come experience. The initial inertia and push of this whole movement came from gym owners that were tired and fed up, but they all run businesses, and they can get together once or twice a year. But when it's like, okay, you hold them to the fire, what do you want to do? Like, oh, well, you figure it out, or we just want to be heard. So after a lot of, I won't say lost time, but a lot of time that went into trying to do one before the other, we decided, hey, you know what? What's a trend that we all know? We know if we build something cool, it'll get some traction. So we went the for-profit route. And it's unique in that sense that I'm being honest with you about it. We don't have all the bylaws in place for the non-for-profit. We have the shell, we have some of the concepts, and we have the ideology behind it, and we have the guarantee from what the contribution looks back from the for-profit side. So that's to be determined in the sense of if there's significant engagement and participation from one country, what that looks like. We'll have to work together to create a balanced scale so that the contributions are fair when it comes to some of the decision making.
I mean, that makes sense. And you're definitely, I get, you got to build something and then break a bunch of things and then figure out how to fix them. And then you got to break stuff quickly and move forward. So, yeah. I'm here for that. When we are using the term all-star. So are we thinking this is going to be from beginners, your level, I'm going to use American terminology or USASF terminology, right? Your level 1s through level 7s, and we're going to have all of the above? Is this going to be focused on, higher level worlds style athletes? Like where are we focusing here?
Great question, and I'm glad you brought that up. The tournament is level 1 through 7. Okay, and our age grid is based off of the international standard age grid, U16 through open. And there's a caveat to the U16 side because we've already, from our town hall that we had with gym owners around the world, we've already made some moves on the bottom age. The traditional U16 in the international age grid has it stops. It doesn't really align with the United States or the UK. So we've taken the U14 bracket and voted it in to fit within our U16. So for the AIA tournament specifically, our bottom age for U16 is 10. So we don't want anyone under the age of 10 in the tournament. That's to respect international standards of competition that sit within the ICU's statutes, as well as trying to keep costs down for people and not wearing them out and putting young athletes on the road every single year. So it's level 1 through 7, non-tumbling, with tumbling, cheer and dance. We've got some pretty cool concepts to the tournament, but our rules that we're following are the IASF rules. That's our first step. That's our commitment, and they're actually the same now. There's some minor differences in a couple of levels, but I was a part of that process that worked very hard with the USASF to merge them. And so we stand firm on the fact that we're not trying to recreate the wheel. Being fully transparent, from my head to some small discussions, we've talked about looking at some of the rules in the U.S. under USA Cheer and ACA that are pushing the sport for the high school levels that we can't do in level 5, 6 in the United States or even at Worlds. But that might be later on down the road. And that's kind of the cool thing about our space, right? We can look at this tournament, we can look at this organization, and we can say, okay, well, why can that happen there and not here? If the general kid off the street can throw a back handspring double up at high school nationals, why can't the kid on Dream? We kicked around some of those ideas, but just to end that question, level 1 through 7, U16 with a bottom age of 10 years old, and that's non-tumbling and tumbling, and our dance categories are pom, hip hop, jazz, and open contemporary lyrical. And of course, we're not doing anything wild like junior level 7 or anything crazy like that. It's still in line with what we can all look at and go, oh, okay, this makes sense.
I don't see why you wouldn't want 11-year-olds throwing twisting tosses and flipping, twisting and flipping. Yeah, that makes sense. 2.5 high.
Yeah.
They do it in the pool, Jibreel. They do it in the pool. So it's fine.
And my daughter has a back handspring out back. Okay. She should be in your level 14.
Hey, you never know. And there's 4.2 for a reason. Okay. So there is some crazy stuff being built. What do people have to do to qualify for this big, truly international event in Montreal? Is it just a, come one, come all? Are there going to be qualifiers? How does that look?
Yeah, so we are about to drop our list, which is 30 plus event producers, over 18 countries, and just over 80 qualifiers. We are still working hard to close out a few that are actually in the United States and one in Canada. But we have done a really good job of getting EPs on board and them seeing the greatness of this. Gym owners will be able to qualify at any one of the qualifiers that are live and or virtual. You qualify. One of the unique things about this is no, everyone cannot come. Just a short answer. This is not an end of season event. This is not something that you're going to put on your calendar for your whole gym to go to. If you want, that's cool. But more than likely, you won't qualify. And I'll tell you why. We have a minimum score requirement. So rubric-based, United scoring, open scoring, AXA, UK International, United, anything like that that's on a rubric, you have to score a minimum of 94 to qualify. And then, which is, it's a decent score depending on the panel, right, Dan?
On the varsity score sheet, a 98.4?
No, a 94, excuse me.
I was like, that's more than decent.
Yeah, no, right? No, a 94 just to get into that qualification bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the international score sheet, it's a 75%, which I'll be honest, on the record, we're reviewing it because through our data of our current events that have happened internationally, we've actually had to lower it down to 73 just to make sure that we were getting enough teams involved. And we might have to consider talking deeper about maybe that being a 70%, just because 75% is strong. But we did it intentionally because we want some prestige there. We want there to be high caliber and quality competition at this event. I'll keep going on it because I have so much to say. It's not an international event to where you're going to spend money to go to another country and only compete once. We've got up to 5 rounds, and the first 2 rounds are guaranteed. So everyone gets to perform twice over the course of a 4-day period. The champion of their own division would compete 4 times. The champion of their level would compete 5 times. So it's a cool opportunity that we've got round 1, round 2, quarterfinals, semifinals, and a grand final. And the grand final is the true level champ. So a U16 level 2 can compete against an open level 2 to be deemed the grand champion of the tournament and carry those rights for 18 months. We're doing our best to make it easily accessible and for anyone, which is one of the reasons why we, like I said, we will open virtuals if we have to, and we'll be standing on that pretty firm by middle of June, depending on what these last couple event producers look like within the U.S.
Interesting. So I love hearing that, because one of the worst things about end of season events or big travel events is going and getting one day and then you spent, $3,000 to bring your family to watch your kid compete for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Now it sounds like, and I just want to confirm, we're not talking about truly changing the sport. So we're not doing a tournament where it's like, perform your pyramid section, perform your elite section. You're doing your routine just across multiple days and progressing through the event. Is that correct?
It's spot on. This is traditional all-star, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Our scoring system right now is we're working on a hybrid scoring system of the comparative international world scoring system that has a legitimate level appropriate guide and rubric touch to it so that everyone understands how to navigate it to a point. We still believe in leaving the top end. Let's say if it's out of 20, from 1 to 16, you'll know how to sort of hit those benchmarks and get there. And then we're still going to leave that top end available for the ability to separate for those teams that are just that much stronger. And I'll be honest right here on the call, if I have it my way, it will actually be heavier on the technique side.
Amazing. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be favorable for those that invest in technique. When we're talking about let's just look at this year, right? You just won the summit.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Let's say that team is going to the tournament and that tournament was in July. I wouldn't want you to be now rechanging your routine, knowing you're going to compete in, 60 days or so from now. We want you to bring the best, solid, strongest, definitive example of great cheerleading and unquestionable technique to that tournament. We want to challenge the judges and the coaches to be in line with the best team is the best team, not the team that fell 4 times and still found a way to win. But,
which we sometimes see.
We sometimes see it. So our actions on this are quite intentional. And it's a lot of hearing and listening and being a part of the conversations, but they just don't change. Well, here's an environment where we believe that we can look at each other and go, well, that was something we didn't like. That's why we did it. That's what some 15 of us sat around a table 5 years ago and said we wanted something different. Here it is.
I love it. The big hot button questions. Are parents going to have to pay $100 per person to come watch their kid compete?
No, not at all. The beautiful thing about this is financially, our bylaws have us set up to not be in the United States for our first 3 tournaments. It started with never. And then we walked it back, just making sure that we were thinking openly. And I'll be honest, we wanted to stay away from some of the political mess and some of the things that are going on the legal front. And obviously giving everyone else an opportunity for their countries and their cultures to be seen. Being in Canada, first and foremost, everyone's saving money that's, north of the American border or coming in from Europe, and even Australians, it's almost at par. We're looking at a 30% to 40% saving, depending on which country you're coming from and how valuable or what the value of your currency is. And as far as the door goes, we're teetering between an $18 to $22 ticket, and that's why we were very firm on the 2 days as well. So families will be considered in all steps as we go through. And this is, like I said, it's one of the things that also brings value to the association. Gym owners get to speak up and be like, hey guys, like, we've got to find a happy medium here. Everyone wants to make money. We got to make money. That's what we do. We run businesses. We're in this to make a living.
100%.
But I experienced that myself.
Mm-hmm.
Being on the outside of some events, having to pay to get in, it was like, oh, okay. It hurts. It hurts a lot.
Yep. I just want to watch my daughter. Okay, come on, or son, but
my niece.
Yeah. Okay. So as we kind of wrap up, because I know we probably need to have you on when we have some more details ironed out, because I know you guys are midway building this thing. But if someone's looking to get involved on the front end, if someone wants to kind of become a part of this or, be involved early, what should they be doing?
On our website, associationofinternationalallstar.com, right on our main page, there is a button to click for gym owners that want to be involved. Our event producer round of membership for this first tournament, it's closed. We closed it on May 6th, so anyone that was in discussions with us or lingering or in limbo or started to fill the paperwork, we gave them the grace period. We stopped accepting anyone on May 6th, and that's those I referred to on the call. We still got a couple out there. But as far as our founding group of investors from an event producer side and our founding event producer members, the door is shut until 2026. As far as gym owners, we have a growing database that is roughly around 100 gyms right now from all around the world that either clicked that button off of one of our posts or took a step forward and took action after the town hall. And then that next step for us is to now creating more traction with interaction, calling a meeting and just starting it. But anyone that wants to get involved, the information's on the website. It's quite robust. We've got as much as we can out there. Our vision, our mission statement, our purpose, who our founding event producer members are, who are the EPs that are behind the tournament, where the tournament's at, what the mission statement is sort of concept is for the association and ways for gym owners to get involved. It's all there, and we are open in the sense of seeking, support, and involvement, and engagement from gym owners and business owners within the all-star space.
So I have one other question for you. And this may be this may feel gotcha-y. What is going to make you guys different than the other attempts at something like this?
Consistency.
Okay.
We're not going to quit. World started with 14 teams. We currently have 42 teams from 3 countries that have accepted their invitations and committed to us. We're not going to quit. We can only take a certain number of teams, and we know our minimum threshold, and we're gonna push through this because we believe in it.
I love that. And I mean, I was asking a pseudo canned question because I've known you long enough to know that you're pretty stubborn and you're generally going to make something happen. So, which is a good thing. This kind of an endeavor requires someone to have a no quit, stubborn attitude of like, I'm going to make this happen. I think it's a fair question on people's mind because other organizations and associations and things have formed over the years or announced and to big fanfare and then held an event once and then never happened again or just kind of fizzled out.
Well, Dan, with that, I also want to say, no discredit to anyone else, but our intentions are different. We're not after anybody else. We're not out to replace anyone else. This is adjacent. This is in addition to, and we're intentionally, genuinely standing on a purpose of our why being for All-Star by All-Star. And it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. So
yeah,
respectfully,
absolutely.
We're not out to take anyone down. We're just out to create.
Well, I know you know this, and I've mentioned it on my podcast before, but a lot of people don't realize how neglected the international community has been in cheer and how people are like, oh, well, they can come to Worlds. Yeah, but you don't understand how hard it is for them to get visas and we're not actually always seeing the best athletes from those countries because it's held in the States every single year. And so getting the opportunity to allow teams to come to other locations or even have it in their home country, I get excited about it. You and I have talked about this offline before, but I got to go cheer in Japan and do cool things. Those are amazing experiences that you literally cannot replicate except by doing them. And quite frankly, I'll be at USASF Worlds and I'll be at one of the summits next year. That's going to happen, but I would be so happy to never go back to a Disney park. Not because there's anything wrong with Disney, but it's been 14 years.
Yeah,
I've been doing this sometimes it's nice to do something different. So
I support that, brother. I'm in the 20-year club down there. And like I've told any executive that's questioned it or wanted to know, that event exists for a reason. It's all of our blood, sweat, and tears and investment, and we love it. And we're going to support it. But there's nothing wrong with something new and something different. And you literally said so much about what we do and why we do it to a T. And it's just time. Why not? Why not us? Why not now? If not, when?
Yeah. Is it always going to be that July-ish timeframe?
Great question. So the 18-month cycle it's set up to be in the pockets of no man's land for cheerleading. So third week of July-ish there, and then the week after New Year's. So we're July, January every other year. And one of the things is we're always trying to chase the sun. So we're looking around the different hemispheres based on the good weather. And there's some things you can't change about, a good event. And we can all complain about being in Florida, but with the one thing we get when we're in Florida, 99% of the time it's sun. And even when it rains, she goes away and it's still warm. So we aligned with that right out the gate. Because at first it was every 24 months. And so 18 gave us a sweet spot and allowed us to play around the world and the seasons and the hemispheres. And one of the things that's unique Gym Owner had on that pocket in July and that pocket in January, they're dead zones. There's not one end of season qualifier. There's not for Worlds, Summit, any of the Worlds at all, et cetera, et cetera. There's not one ICU Continental Championships out there at all. And no discredit to an EP that might see this. It's like, yeah, I got an event there. We're not trying to bash that, but I had the playbook in a sense of the global calendar. I had to manage it. I mastered it. I could tell, well, here and here are dead zones. Do we expect to have 1,500 teams? Never. We're not built for that. You know, our ceiling sits at about 600 max best case for cheer and 350 best case for dance. So to the person that says, well, we can't do that, I say, well, lacrosse says otherwise. Gymnastics says otherwise. These long-standing, profitable, unbreakable sports with these strong institutions, they found a way. So we're going to sit in those pockets and sort of claim that space and hope to have as much success as we can.
Very cool. Well, my friend, I appreciate you joining us and appreciate everything you're trying to do for the cheer industry across the world. It is much appreciated. And if it wasn't for creative thinkers and people pushing outside the box, we would still be just competing in high school gymnasiums with whatever we could piece together with no rules. So it is a logical next step to continue to progress and grow the sport. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Do you have any other parting things for the audience before we let them go?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you and shout out to all that you've done. And it's really been great to see you sort of spread your wings. I know you took a career shift and retired from the force and dove all into this. And, kudos to you and your team at Next Gen as well. You know, you're doing a lot of great things, and it needs to be noted and people see you guys. But I also just encourage the gym owner just to think broader. Don't let the norm be what stops you. You could participate. You could try to participate. Even the U.S. gym, the gym owners, I challenge you to think more. Think about all the divisions on the international score sheet that you can't compete in at home, but you could create a team to compete in somewhere else. You're then creating new opportunities for a new experience and a new pathway in your business. And you get a per head return for every athlete that you bring to the tournament right off the top. This isn't some work back deal at all. You show up with 100 athletes, I'm giving you $25 a head for each athlete. We're super excited about it, and I just encourage people to think bigger, think broader, think about the future.
I love it. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you to everyone who stayed on and listened. Make sure you check out their website, which Association of International All-Star.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure you check that out and request more info. And with that, we will catch you on the next episode.